In the quaint town of Oak Ridge, nestled within the dense forests of the Pacific Northwest, New Year's Eve was a time of celebration and joy. However, beneath the veneer of festivity lurked sinister tales, whispered in hushed tones around campfires and shared among wary locals. These were the New Year's Eve horror stories, whispered with a shiver down the spine, tales that seemed too chilling to be mere fiction. As the clock ticked closer to midnight on December 31st, a group of friends gathered in a cozy cabin deep in the woods. Among them were Sarah, a thrill seeker with a penchant for the supernatural, Mark, the skeptic who always scoffed at such tales, Emily, the quiet one with a hidden fear of the unknown, and Jack, the joker who never took anything too seriously. The evening began innocently enough, with laughter and merriment filling the air as they shared stories and toasted to the year ahead. But as the hour grew late and the fire dimmed to embers, Sarah decided it was time to delve into the darker side of New Year's Eve. "Let's tell our own New Year's horror stories," she suggested, a mischievous glint in her eye. "I'll start." Sarah regaled them with a tale she claimed was true, passed down through generations in her family. It spoke of a hidden clearing deep in the forest where every New Year's Eve, a ghostly figure appeared, beckoning unsuspecting travelers to their doom. Mark rolled his eyes at Sarah's story, dismissing it as nothing more than folklore. But Emily couldn't shake the feeling of unease that settled over her, a chill creeping down her spine despite the warmth of the fire. Jack, ever the provocateur, laughed and proclaimed he would venture into the forest himself to prove the tale was nothing but a hoax. Sarah, never one to back down from a challenge, dared him to do just that. As the clock struck midnight, Jack set off into the darkness, fueled by bravado and a few too many drinks. The others watched from the safety of the cabin, their laughter masking the nagging sense of foreboding that gnawed at their hearts. Hours passed, and Jack failed to return. Sarah's bravado waned, replaced by gnawing guilt as she realized her challenge may have led her friend to his demise. Determined to find him, the group set out into the forest, their flashlights cutting through the inky darkness. But as they ventured deeper into the woods, they soon realized they were not alone. Strange noises echoed through the trees, whispers carried on the wind that seemed to speak directly to their deepest fears. Shadows danced at the edge of their vision, fleeting glimpses of something lurking just beyond sight. Emily's fear escalated with each step, her imagination running wild with visions of the ghostly figure Sarah had described. She clung to Mark's arm, seeking comfort in his skeptical reassurances, but even he couldn't deny the palpable sense of dread that hung heavy in the air. Suddenly, they stumbled upon a clearing bathed in moonlight, the air thick with an otherworldly chill. At the center stood Jack, frozen in place, his eyes wide with terror as he stared into the darkness beyond. Before they could reach him, a figure emerged from the shadows, its form twisted and distorted, like something out of a nightmare. It beckoned to them with a skeletal hand, its voice a haunting whisper that sent shivers down their spines. In that moment, they realized the truth of Sarah's tale, that some horrors were all too real. With a scream, they turned and fled, the ghostly figure pursuing them through the trees with a relentless determination. They ran until their lungs burned and their legs threatened to give out beneath them, until they stumbled back into the safety of the cabin, the door slamming shut behind them with a finality that echoed through the night. But even as they huddled together, safe from the terrors that lurked outside, they knew they would never truly escape the toll of midnight. For on that fateful New Year's Eve, they had glimpsed the darkness that lay hidden within the heart of the forest, a darkness that would haunt them for the rest of their days. As the night wore on, the group huddled together in the cabin, the warmth of the fire offering little solace against the bone-deep chill that had settled over them. Sarah's tale had proven more than just a story, it had become their reality, a nightmare from which there was no waking. Jack sat huddled in a corner, his eyes haunted by the terror he had witnessed in the forest. Emily clung to him, her fear palpable as she trembled against his chest. Mark, The skeptic struggled to make sense of what they had encountered, his logical mind grasping for rational explanations even as the irrationality of their situation screamed otherwise. Outside, the wind howled like a banshee, rattling the windows and sending shivers down their spines. Shadows danced across the walls, casting eerie shapes that seemed to twist and writhe with a life of their own. Suddenly, there came a knock at the door. 3 sharp raps that echoed through the cabin like a death knell. The group froze, their hearts pounding in their chests as they exchanged nervous glances. Who could that be? Emily whispered, her voice barely more than a terrified squeak. Mark rose from his seat, his skepticism warring with his curiosity as he approached the door. With trembling hands, he reached out and turned the handle, the door creaking open to reveal the darkness beyond. But instead of the ghostly figure they had expected, there stood a lone figure, clad in tattered clothes and shrouded in darkness. His face was hidden beneath the brim of a wide-brimmed hat, his features obscured by shadow. "Please," the figure said, his voice little more than a hoarse whisper. "You have to help me. They're coming for me." Mark hesitated, unsure whether to trust the stranger standing on their doorstep. But as he looked into the man's eyes, he saw a desperation that mirrored their own. Reluctantly, he stepped aside, allowing the stranger to enter the cabin. As he did, a cold gust of wind followed him, carrying with it the scent of decay and something far more sinister. The stranger collapsed onto the floor, his breath coming in ragged gasps as he clutched at his chest. Sarah rushed to his side, her instincts overriding her fear as she checked for signs of injury. "What happened to you?" she asked, her voice filled with concern. The stranger's eyes darted around the room, as if searching for unseen threats lurking in the shadows. "They're coming," he said, his voice barely more than a whisper. "The spirits of the forest. They're angry, and they won't stop until they've claimed their vengeance." Before Sarah could press him further, a deafening roar echoed through the cabin, followed by the sound of splintering wood as the walls began to shake. Outside, the forest seemed to come alive with a cacophony of screams and howls, as if the very trees themselves were crying out in anguish. With a sinking feeling in the pit of their stomachs, the group realized they were trapped, caught between the horrors of the forest and the unknown dangers lurking within. As the night stretched on, the stranger revealed the truth of his plight, recounting a tale of betrayal and forbidden knowledge that had led him into the heart of the forest. He spoke of ancient rituals and dark powers beyond human comprehension, of a pact made with forces far more sinister than they could ever imagine. But as he spoke, it became clear that he was not the only one who bore the burden of their sins. Each member of the group carried their own secrets, their own fears and regrets that had brought them to this fateful New Year's Eve. Together, they faced a choice: to confront the darkness that lay hidden within the heart of the forest, or to succumb to the shadows that threatened to consume them from within. With dawn fast approaching, they knew they had little time left to decide. But as they stood on the precipice of despair, they also knew that in the darkness, there was always a glimmer of hope, a flicker of light that refused to be extinguished. And so, with hearts heavy and resolve strengthened, they ventured out into the forest once more, determined to face whatever horrors awaited them on the other side. For on that fateful New Year's Eve, they had learned that sometimes the only way to conquer fear is to confront it head-on, to embrace the darkness and emerge stronger on the other side. But whether they would emerge from the depths of the forest unscathed, or whether they would become just another tale whispered in hushed tones around campfires for years to come, remained to be seen.